In the last week of her life, a woman I'll call Iris Dunore said 4 sentences to her daughter that the daughter has not been able to stop hearing since. She did not say she had seen a light in the sky. She did not say something had once happened to her on a lonely night. She did not, in the way these stories usually go, confess to a single strange event she had carried alone. What she said was stranger and much worse than that. She said she had been answering them since 1971, every night shift, for 26 years, a conversation she had kept up for half her life and told no one about, not her husband, not her daughter, not a soul. And then she told her daughter the one thing about it that has kept the daughter awake ever since. I'll get to that, but it lands the way it does, only because of who this woman was. And the short version is that she was nobody's idea of a dreamer. That is the whole problem. Iris Dunmore worked nights for the telephone company. For most of the years that matter, she was a switchboard operator at a small manual exchange in a rural town I'll call Renner, the kind of place that still ran a cordboard with live operators long after the cities had gone automatic. A room with a wall of jacks and cords and a headset, where every call in town passed through a human being who plugged one line into another by hand. She worked the graveyard shift, alone, from 11 at night until the morning relief came. She was good at it, and by every account, she was the opposite of fanciful, practical, unsentimental, a woman who balanced her own accounts and did not believe in ghosts, and said so. She spent her working life doing the single most ordinary thing a person can do with a ringing line. She answered it. That habit is the entire story, so hold on to it. The daughter, whom I'll call Dana, gave me the one piece of physical evidence that exists, and I'll come to that too, because it is what stops this from being a simple story about the strain of too many nights alone in a quiet room. But most of what I can tell you comes from those 4 deathbed sentences, expanded a little in the 2 lucid days that followed them before Iris slipped under for good. It is a thin record. Iris kept almost nothing, wrote almost nothing down, and I think that was deliberate, and I think the reason she kept no record is itself one of the more unsettling things about the case. She did not want it to exist on paper. She wanted it to end with her. It very nearly did. Here is what she described. On a night early in 1971, not long after she started the shift, a call came in on the board that should not have been possible. A jack lit up in a position that, by her account, was not wired to an outside line at all, a spare, a dead position, one of the holes on the board that went nowhere. She assumed it was a fault. She plugged in to clear it, the way an operator does, expecting the dead air of a crossed circuit. And there was a voice. She would not say much, ever, about what the voice was like, and I have come to believe the vagueness was not evasion but accuracy, that she genuinely could not fit it to the words we have. Not a man, not a woman, she said once, not near and not far. It knew her name, which no caller on that board had any way to know, because the operator was anonymous, a voice that said "number please" and nothing else, and it did not ask her to connect it anywhere. It asked her a question, an ordinary question, the kind you might ask anyone, and she, being who she was, out of 20 years of reflex not yet even begun, answered it. That is the moment the whole thing turns on, and I want to slow down on it because it is not the part people expect to matter. The frightening thing is not that a voice came out of a dead jack. Strange calls, crossed lines, phantom rings. Every old operator has a stock of those, and most of them have a dull explanation. The frightening thing is what Iris did and kept doing. She answered. And when the jack lit again the next night, she answered again. And here is the detail that stopped me. The small physical wrongness she mentioned only once and never elaborated. When she plugged into that position, the jack was cold. Every other jack on the board carried a faint warmth from the current, from the room, from her own hands working the cords all night. That one was cold to the touch, every single time, a hard cold, cold like the brass had been sitting out in January, in a warm room, in the middle of summer, it made no difference. And she learned to know which light it was before she ever looked at the board, because her fingertips reached the position and went cold first, the way you know a step is missing in the dark before your foot confirms it. 26 years, and it never once warmed up. A crossed line, a fault, a trick of a tired mind, none of those runs cold under your fingers for a quarter of a century. And here is where Iris was not fanciful, because she was the first to offer the easy explanation herself. She knew what a graveyard shift does to a person. She knew that a human being alone in a dim room at 3 in the morning, doing a repetitive task, is a human being whose brain will start supplying company voices in the hum of the equipment, a name half heard in white noise, the mind's own machinery filling an empty channel. She said all of that to her daughter, plainly, in those last days. She had considered it for 26 years, and she had rejected it, for one reason that she could not talk herself out of, and it is the same reason I cannot talk myself out of it either. She answered them, and they answered back. Specifically, in ways she could check, because it was not one voice asking idle questions into the dark. Over the years, and this is the part that curdles the tidy explanation, the thing on the cold line told her things. Small things, verifiable things, things she had no way to know and later found to be true. A death, before the call came through the ordinary way, a thing a neighbor had done that no one was supposed to know. Once, she said, the location of something lost, described exactly. A mind alone at 3 in the morning invents company, yes. It does not tell you where the missing ring is, in the drawer under the lining, and turn out to be right. That is the wall the hallucination theory runs into, and Iris ran into it early, and after that she stopped trying to explain it, and simply did the thing she could not stop doing. Every night shift, she answered. For 26 years. And here is the thing she understood about herself, the line that is really the key to all of it, though neither she nor Dana saw its full weight until the very end. She said, near the finish, hearing them was never the dangerous part. Anyone might hear a voice in an empty room and go home and forget it. The danger was answering, because a voice you hear is just weather. A voice you answer is a door, and you are the one holding it open. And the terrible thing about a door you hold open with your own hand for 26 years is that at some point you stop being able to remember how to let go of the handle. It was not a haunted line. Nobody was doing this to her. A haunting is something done to you. An open line is something you keep open. So for 26 years, she kept it open. She would clock in at 11, work the ordinary calls of a small town at night, the doctor, the sick child, the long-distance call to a soldier, the drunk, the lonely, and somewhere in the small hours, the cold jack would light, and she would plug in, and she would talk. About what? She almost never said. That is the hollow at the center of this case, and I have made my peace with the fact that I will never fill it. 26 years of nightly conversation, and it exists nowhere. She carried it out of that room every morning and told no one, and when she died it went with her. All of it, except for 4 sentences and 1 tape. The tape is the reason we are talking about this at all. Sometime in the mid-1970s, Iris did the one thing she otherwise never did. She made a record. Dana thinks, from what her mother said, that she needed proof for herself not to show anyone, just to know, on the mornings when the daylight made her doubt, that she had not been going quietly insane in that room for years. She brought a small cassette recorder to the board one night and set it running, and she recorded 1 call. Only 1, as far as anyone knows. And that cassette, warped and hissing and 40-odd years old, is in Dana's possession now, and I have heard it. I want to be honest about what is and is not on it, because it would be easy to oversell, and the truth is stranger for being partial. What you hear cleanly is Iris. Her side of it calm, familiar, the voice of a woman talking to something she has talked to 1,000 times, with no fear in it, which is its own kind of unnerving. You hear her ask a question and then wait, in the particular way a person waits when someone is actually answering, and in the gaps where she waits, there is something on the tape, not silence. A sound under the hiss, shaped, rising and falling in the cadence of speech, timed exactly to the pauses responding. I cannot tell you it is a voice. I can tell you that 3 separate people I played it for, told nothing beforehand, all used the same word without prompting, someone. There is someone on the other end, and not one of them could say who, or what, or how. The ordinary explanation is strong, and Iris would have been the first to walk me through it. The graveyard shift is a hallucination machine. Isolation, monotony, sleep deprivation, the low electrical hum of old equipment, the exact conditions that reliably produce vivid voices in perfectly healthy people, and she worked it for a quarter of a century. As for the things the voice told her that turned out true, a small-town operator was the nexus every private call passed through. She knew who was sick, who was leaving whom, whose money was in trouble, before almost anyone, so the voice may only have been handing her back her own knowledge, wearing a mask. The way a mind hides its reasoning and presents the conclusion as revelation. Even the tape has a dull answer. A cheap recorder in a room full of old switchboard current is a machine that produces bleed, crosstalk, radio pickup, structured noise, and 3 people hearing a voice in structured noise is not proof of a voice, only proof of what human beings do with structured noise, which is hear a voice whether one is there or not. Put all of that together, and the mystery mostly dissolves. A lonely woman, a haunted-sounding job, a mind feeding itself, a bad recording the imagination finishes. If that were the whole of it, I would lean that way and say so plainly. But it is not the whole of it, and here the ordinary account develops a hole it cannot close, because Iris was not the only operator that line ever called. This is the part Dana found after her mother died, and it is the part that turns the whole thing from a sad private story into something with a shape. Iris, in those last days, named the cold jack, named the position on the board, and said it had lit for others too, not just at Renner. Over the years, the same impossible call, the same dead position coming alive, turned up in the accounts of other night operators, at other small exchanges, that Iris had heard about the way operators hear about things, through the quiet network of people who work the same lonely job across a region. And here is the pattern, the thing that should stop you. Every one of them did the same thing. They got the light on a jack that went nowhere, and they reported a fault. Or they pulled the position out of service. Or they plugged in, heard what they heard, and never plugged in again. Some of them quit the shift. Some quit the work entirely. One, Iris said, would not speak of it at all, ever, and left the exchange within the week. They all refused it. Every one of them got the light and let it burn. Iris answered. And then she answered again, and again, for 26 years. And that not any gift, not any mark on her, not any special sensitivity is the entire reason it was her. This is the revelation that came last, in her final lucid hour, and it is the one that terrified her daughter, because it is so much worse than being chosen. Being chosen would at least mean you were rare, that something in you was singled out, that there was a reason. There was no reason. There was nothing special about Iris Dunmore, and that is the horror of it. The call went out wide, for years, to anyone sitting at a board in the dark, a net thrown across every lonely exchange in the region, and everyone who felt it hit had the exact same choice in front of them. And all of them, every single one, refused it and let it burn. She was simply the one who answered, and having answered, kept answering, because she was built as the kind of person who cannot let a line ring out. That was the only quality that mattered. Not power, not destiny, not a bloodline, nothing you could feel proud of or cursed by, just the plain, small, human inability to leave a call unanswered. They do not take the special ones. They take the ones who answer. And you do not get to know, in advance, that you are one of them. You find out the way Iris found out, by picking up. And that is the sentence she used, at the end, to her daughter. She said, "They don't come for the special ones, Dana. They come for the ones who pick up." And then, she said, the 4 words that are the actual center of this whole account, the ones Dana repeated to me, with her hands shaking, because her mother, dying, looking at her, said them not as a warning about a stranger, but as a diagnosis of her own child. Don't answer it. But you will. Because Dana is the same. She told me this herself, quietly, as though confessing to a symptom. She has never in her life been able to let a phone ring out. It is a small thing, a joke among her friends, the way she lunges for a ringing phone, the way an unanswered ring puts an itch in her she cannot stand, the way she will call back a number she doesn't recognize just to close the loop. Her whole life she thought it was nothing. Her mother, dying, told her what it was. It was the one trait that mattered. It was the door, already ajar, in her too. Iris Dunore died in the winter of 1997, and the cold jacket Renner went quiet because the exchange had gone automatic years before and the board was long gone. And I would like to tell you that was the end of it. But the someone on the tape has never been identified, and the line of operators who got the same call and refused it is real, and none of that is the thing that keeps me up. The thing that keeps me up is Dana. She still has the tape. She keeps it in a drawer and does not play it, and the one time she took it out, while I was there, she held it without pressing anything. The way you hold a thing you are afraid of, her mother's voice on it. Calm, familiar, talking to something in the pauses. And she told me, holding it, that lately, only in the last year, only since her mother died, she has started getting calls in the small hours, from numbers that come up as nothing. From a caller the phone company cannot trace to any line. She has not answered them. She let me hear one ring out, once, the whole way, both of us just listening to it go, her mother's tape sitting on the table between us. She has not answered them yet. But she is the one who answers. She has been, her whole life. And a phone that rings in the dark, for a person built like that, is not a sound. It is a door, with a hand already drifting toward the handle, and the only question left is how many nights a woman like that can sit and listen to it ring before the reflex of a lifetime does what it has always done.